I will be spoiling Expedition 33. If you have not played it, I urge you to play it now. The game is amazing, and if you like RPGs at all, you should play it. You should do yourself the favor. I finally beat the game for myself, and I've been enjoying all the extra content, going through some bosses, picking up stray journals that I've left behind, and just overall indulging in as much of the game as I can before I finally have to close the page on it for a while until we get a DLC or whatever we get in the future from these guys. And because I have done that, I have finally started allowing myself to consume content around the game and see other people's perspective. I like having discussions on art and our interpretations of it and seeing where everyone else's head is at. But I am confused because everyone, or not everyone, I don't want to generalize too broadly, but I'm seeing a great deal of people say that Maelle's ending is the good one, or saying that the choice between Maelle's and Verso's endings is hard, or stuff like that. And I just do not agree at all. I think that Verso's ending is without a doubt the correct choice. It might seem like the more cold hearted and selfish choice, but it is the correct one. And that is because, unfortunately, as much as we all hate to admit it, in the context of this story, uh, Verso's world, the painted Lumiere, and all of his denizens are not real. And that has weight and meaning to it. And we shouldn't sacrifice this real family who is going through a real struggle with these painted people that could be brought back in another way, shape, or form, and it would be like nothing had happened to them. Because, as CL says, at a certain point in the game, everything is different now. Now that we know that death is not the end. But in real Paris, death is the end, and we know that for a fact because Verso's gone. Real Verso is gone. He's never coming back. So we know that death is final. But I also just have problems overall with Maelle, with real Alicia, like what she's doing. So during her ending, which I played the game on Twitch, and I chose her ending because even though I didn't agree with it, I knew it would be the more interesting one. But during her ending, after you beat Verso, Verso begs with you to stop the fragment of his soul from painting, thus destroying the canvas. He quickly gives up on trying to convince Maelle of this because she's not going to, and so he decides to just beg for himself. He decides, hey, just unmake me, just unpaint me. I don't want to live like this anymore. I don't want to live this life. Please unpaint me. And Maelle, the person that I've seen so many people rally behind and sympathize with, cannot do this. Now, to be clear, her eliminating Verso would not destroy the canvas. If she got rid of painted Verso, he would just cease to exist, but the canvas could go on. The only thing you need for the canvas to go on is Verso's soul. And Maelle couldn't even honor that wish. And it's not because, again, because we're establishing that it's not important. The Verso's soul is not important. I mean, the painted Verso existing is not important to the longevity of the canvas. We're establishing that. It's just there to satiate Eileen's grief, to try to give her a sense of normalcy. That's why painted Verso was created. So that means that Maelle is purposely doing this for the same reasons. She just wants to not feel sad anymore not to have the pain anymore, and so she condemns Painted Verso to this life that he does not want for herself. And so I'm seeing people giving her this credit and saying that she did the right thing and all this other stuff. Is like, no, it's purely selfish reasons. And I'm not even entirely convinced that she cares about the denizens of Lumiere all that much. And the reason I say that is because if she would have agreed to get rid of the canvas, um, she would have only lost the world, and she would have released Verso's soul. Now, I know I say that, and you're probably thinking, well, no, all the denizens, everyone would have died if she would have gotten rid of the canvas. Well, that's just not true. And the reason that we know it's not true is because when the Gomage happens after we defeat the Paintress, and the Gomage just takes everyone, Maelle brings back Lune and Ciel. And she brings them back completed with their memories, and they not only remember everything, but they also have all their abilities. They remember being Gomaged in the first place, which is wild. And so that means that it is totally on the table for Maelle to just paint her own canvas. And this is a thing that a child can do. Now, maybe Maelle, before going into the canvas world, wouldn't have been able to do that, but at this point in the story, she is definitely strong enough to do this. She definitely has the capabilities to make her own canvas world. And all you need to make creations is the thoughts in your head and the ability. We don't know exactly how they gauge power levels, but the ability to paint things into existence. So she can make her own canvas world. She can make a copy for Lumiere if all she wanted, and she could populate it with all of the denizens that she remembers and grew up with, and that would be that, because that's what she does in her ending. In her ending, she brings everyone that she's aware of back. She doesn't repopulate everything because she's only been in there for 16 years. But everyone that she knows, she brings them back with seemingly no problems or difficulties, which means she could do it for another world. She could do it for another canvas. So she doesn't need to hang on to this one, but she wants to because it houses Verso's soul. So all this talk of, oh, she would have been condemning all of these people to die is just not true. You do know who she might have been condemning to die, and none of them seem to care or be worried about it. The Gestrels and the Grandises. She might have been condemning them to die because we don't know how her powers works on them, because they were specifically created by Verso, which is why they don't Gomage in the first place. And so we don't know if she'd be able to recreate them. We don't know because, she grew up thinking they weren't real. The version of her that grew up in the painted world, Gestrels and Grandises were only myth. So we don't know how that works with her abilities. But let's just say, for the sake of argument, that she can't bring them back. I don't think she'd lose any sleep. The only ones that she really liked like that were Minoko and Eskie. So, and again, we don't know how her powers work when it comes to them. So, yeah, she might be sad that she lost them, but she could always populate the world with Gestral light or Grandis light. Her own version, her own Timu version of those species. She didn't need Verso's version of it. So if you take all that into consideration, there's literally no reason why she couldn't get rid of the canvas outside of just being selfish and not wanting to face her brother's demise and not being able to cope with that, which is, ultimately what it was. That is what's going on here. It's what was true for her. It was true for Eileen, her mother. And another point of perspective that I don't think very many people who agree with Maelle are thinking about is the fact that if we look at painted Verso's existence, the cruelty of it all. So, here's the breakdown. Eileen brings back Verso, or makes a painted copy of Verso. This painted copy of Verso has all the memories and all the personality of the living copy painted into him. The only difference between painted Verso and real Verso is that real Verso died protecting his sister, and we don't really know what happened in the fire with painted Verso, but we do know he survived it. So that is the biggest point of difference. But it's important because he still cares about his family to the exact same level that his real world counterpart would have. Which means that for everyone judging him and saying that he shouldn't do this and saying, oh no, the real Verso wouldn't have given up the canvas, you're all wrong. You're all wrong. Not only are you wrong, but Clea says it in the game. She's like, no, Verso, if none of this stuff with mother and father were going on, Verso would make the same choice. He'd be telling the same thing. If mother would have wandered into the canvas and Verso was alive instead of me, he'd be telling you the same thing about, no, don't go chase after her. If she needs to do this, then whatever. But she's being ridiculous. And I know it might seem cruel and heartless to be so dismissive of these characters' existences, but again, the real world they're in has actual things going on. Clea's right. Life doesn't stop just because we're in mourning. Your enemies, especially in a time of war, do not care that you're in mourning. And she's completely right. And the thing is that Maelle is just, we're seeing it through the eyes of immaturity. She's doing her character arc wrong. And she's been set up for success, but she's doing it wrong. I like to think about this movie a lot. It's called The Page Master. And in this movie, we have this wimpy, know-nothing boy who's like a coward, and he's afraid to even get in this tree house that his dad is building for him, and he can barely ride his bike because he's afraid of it, and he's just a wimp overall. And some circumstances happen. He gets transported to another world. He's the only he's by himself, right? If something goes down, he is the point of contact. He has to dig deep and make things right. And so, through some trials and some tribulations, he gains courage. He gains the ability to think on his feet. He becomes more willing to face his fears. But then it becomes time to leave and go back to the real world. And the force that threw him into this other world in the first place tells him in no uncertain terms that you always had this stuff in you, but now I've brought it out. Now you have to go back home and use it to make your life there better. Now, these were the 90s back then, so he said it way better and not super on the nose and annoying like I just said it. But that's what he does. He does tell him that, hey, use this growth, use this character growth to go better your life. And Maelle was supposed to do the same thing. Not only was she supposed to do the same thing, but she gets told it several times by other characters. She gets told it by Verso. Verso tells her, you are still Maelle, even without this place. Which is him telling her, you've grown, you've changed. You're not like the sister I have in my memories. You don't have to chain yourself to me. You can make your life outside better. Renoir tells it, I know it's hard, but it will get better. You have to trust me. And then not only does he tell her, there's a symbol of it when you go to fight Painted Alicia. The tower, one who reaches for the sky, the whole parable is that Maelle may not be the best right now, but she has unlimited potential if she were to just believe in herself and never stop striving for greater heights. Alicia tells her this. In Alicia's letter to Maelle, it says, "What will you paint?" It highlights that she has gone through 16 years of life, both in the real world and in this painted one, which should give her a unique and nuanced perspective and allow her to make better choices. It doesn't necessarily tell her one way or the other whether to destroy the painting or to keep it. But it does say, hey, you should be able to use these experiences to make a better informed decision. And she doesn't. She just goes with her sadness. She doesn't make a decision, really. She doesn't really sit and try to think at all. She just goes with what makes her feel good in the end. Honestly, Verso's ending is Maelle's good ending because Verso doesn't really have the ability to banish Maelle long enough from the canvas because he was standing right in front of it. And time works differently in the canvas. So Maelle just letting herself go or not gomaging Verso immediately is her. This is the only credit I'll give her. The fact that that whole exchange lasts more than Maelle just erasing Verso from existence, which she could have done with no problem, means that that was her having an internal struggle as well. I can give her that. She was definitely fighting with it like the whole time, going, is Verso right? Because she could have just disappeared him from existence, and she doesn't do that right away at the start of the fight. And he doesn't gain any special abilities or anything. So I can give her that much and that much only. But if you pick her ending, that's her ultimately deciding to be ridiculous and selfish. Picking Verso's ending, I will count as a extension of Maelle, but her making a good choice that isn't selfish and self-serving instead. But anyway, so she doesn't need Verso to stay around in order to make this world, to allow this world to continue to exist. She doesn't. We've already established that, and Verso is doing what he's doing because he's imbued with all the thoughts and feelings of his real world counterpart. And so maybe, just maybe, and maybe I'm being a little crazy here, but maybe just maybe finding out that your mom will die, holding on to a version of you that's not real, will make you feel some things. And then seeing her sick and struggling and dying might give you pause, might make you rethink and it did do that. It does do that to Verso, actually, because he decides to help you fight Renoir, which if he wanted to betray you, he could have just gone and worked with Renoir and beat you. But he decides to help you fight him, and it's not until Renoir, you can see it all over his face during the cutscene, it's not until Renoir shows him what Eileen looks like in real life and what staying in the canvas has done to her that he changes his mind. So, maybe next time if you want something like this, don't imbue the person with all of the memories and feelings that his real world counterpart would have, because then he'll wind up making decisions that version of him would have made. And we already know through Verso's characterization that he is selfless. Or at the very least, he's family first. So he would have made these choices. He would have done the exact same thing. He would have urged Maelle to grow up and go past him and move on. And she just didn't. She couldn't look past the grief. If you pick her ending, if you pick her ending, she ultimately cannot look past the grief, and it's real sad. And it's a real problem. But man, I think I've rambled enough. This is one of my first videos, so it's not edited too well or anything like that. But I really, really love this game. This is like one of the first times in a long time that a game has gotten me like this, and so I'll be making more videos like this soon. Maybe not all about Expedition 33, but there'll definitely be more. So if you're interested in any of that, give me a follow, subscribe. I also stream on Twitch, twitch.tv/Jackal the Gob. And let me know how you felt about her ending. I really, really want to know. Even if you think I'm a complete heartless baboon and don't know what I'm talking about, just tell me, because I just, outside of feeling for the characters, I just don't understand how you can side with Maelle. So that'll be all. See you guys next time.